5 soberanos reinaron en estos cielos. 4 se extinguieron con el mundo que conocían. Uno sigue volando hoy mismo. Y lo verás antes del final. The Cretaceous began 145 million years ago, ended 66. Nearly 80 million years of a planet we would not recognize. The atmosphere was denser, the oxygen higher. Warm, shallow seas swallowed entire continents. Pangaea was already broken. North America was split by a vast inland sea. Africa drifted west. India was a lonely island racing north toward Asia. The skies above were not empty, but they did not yet belong to birds as we know them. No sparrows, no hawks circling the wind. The rulers of the air were older, stranger, and far larger than anything alive in our world today. Creatures with leathery wings, hollow bones, and bodies stretched to impossible proportions, a blueprint nature would never repeat. This is the lost world of the Mesozoic sky, un mundo que ya no existe. 5 sovereigns claimed it. 4 vanished with the world they knew. 1 still rides the wind above your head this very moment. We will name them in order, from the giants of the inland plains to the smallest forest survivor. First, the most feared winged hunter ever to cast a shadow on the earth. Its name carries myth. Quetzalcoatlus northropi, named after the feathered serpent god of the Aztecs. And the resemblance was no mere accident. When it stood on the ground, it reached the height of a modern giraffe in full stride. 5 meters tall at the shoulder of its folded wing. When it spread that wing, 11 meters across, the wingspan of a small airplane. It was the largest flying creature ever to live above this earth. Nothing before or since has matched it. Subscribe to continue the journey through un mundo que ya no existe. Imagine that silhouette against a Cretaceous sunset. A skull longer than a body, a beak like a spear, a neck as tall as a man. Quetzalcoatlus was not a bird, not a dinosaur in the strict sense. It was an Ashdarchid pterosaur, the final, most extreme expression of a lineage that ruled the air for ages. For decades, scientists could not agree how this creature flew. Weight estimates ranged from 70 to 200 kilograms. Its wings were thin membranes of skin stretched between an enormous forefinger and the body. Modern science answered. Tomographic scans of its hollow bones reveal a body engineered for soaring. Computer models show how it launched, not by running on 2 legs like a bird, but pushing off the ground with all 4 limbs. A quadrupedal vault hurled it skyward in a single explosive leap. Once airborne, it became a continental glider. With the right thermals, it crossed thousands of kilometers without a single wing beat, riding warm columns of rising air. Across late Cretaceous North America, it watched hadrosaur herds migrate, tracking small theropods through the open woodlands. But here is the strangest part. Quetzalcoatlus did not hunt from the sky. It did not dive. It did not swoop down on prey like a hawk. The geometry of its wings forbade it. Modern reconstructions show a different image, a walking hunter stalking open ground on folded wings used like crutches. It moved with long, deliberate strides. Finding a small dinosaur or hatchling, it struck with that immense spear beak. It was the apex predator of the Cretaceous skies of what is now Texas. The plains belonged to it. The thermals also belonged to it. When it folded its wings among giant herbivores, even carnivorous dinosaurs gave it space. This creature lived in 2 kingdoms at once, the air and the land, the hunter and the wanderer. By the end of its reign, Quetzalcoatlus had become a god of vast distances and silent skies. Some scientists believe it could cross entire continents in one sustained flight. Others say it stayed near its hunting grounds. Either way, no flying creature has ever matched its scale. The giant pterosaur's age ended 66 million years ago. In that moment, the upper limit of vertebrate flight collapsed forever. Nothing has grown that large in the air since. But another giant haunted a stranger landscape, a vanished island kingdom on the other side of the world. In what is now Romania stood an island. 68 million years ago, it sat alone in a tropical sea. Geologists call it Hatzeg Island. It was small, perhaps the size of modern Cuba, ringed by warm reefs. Its isolation produced one of the strangest ecosystems in the history of life. Here, the laws of evolution bent inward. Large dinosaurs shrank. Giant sauropods became dwarf sauropods, no bigger than modern horses, grazing in fern-choked island clearings. Hadrosaurs the size of bulls walked where larger ones had once roamed. But one creature did the opposite. One creature grew enormous. Hatzegopteryx tambema, a pterosaur whose skull stretched more than 3 meters long. A wingspan that may have rivaled Quetzalcoatlus itself, casting long dark shadows across the small island's twilight sky. And the neck, this is the key, a neck reinforced into a thick column of solid bone. Hatzegopteryx vertebrae are not delicate, massive cylinders walled with internal struts, built not for grace but for impact. Its neck could absorb forces no other pterosaur could withstand. It could strike, twist, lift, and crush prey. And on Hatzeg Island, there was no one to stop it. The largest predatory dinosaurs were simply absent. No tyrannosaurs here, no abelisaurs of significant size. The island's top predator was not even on the ground. It came from the sky. Or rather, it walked down from the sky. Hatzegopteryx was a terrestrial stalker. It folded enormous wings against its body and moved across the island on 4 limbs, eyes scanning underbrush. Its head, 1.5 meters of beak and bone, lowered toward dwarf hadrosaurs and juvenile sauropods. It did not dive. It struck like a heron stalking a pond, a giraffe-sized heron with a calf-swallowing beak. This was an apex predator that had replaced the tyrannosaur, filling the niche left empty by absent carnivorous dinosaurs. Its short flights crossed the island, moved between hunting grounds, escaped the rising tides of the surrounding sea. But the real killing happened on the ground. For decades, paleontologists assumed pterosaurs were fragile creatures of air, delicate gliders incapable of any true predation. Hatzeg shattered that image, revealing an aerial reptile turned land hunter, a bone-crushing apex predator, a walking nightmare in a kingdom of dwarfs, the silent sky tyrant on foot. When rains came to Hatzeg, this creature stood motionless among ferns, long head turning slowly, small eyes calculating distance. Then it moved, a slow, steady advance. Wing-folded limbs carried its mass forward, the beak descending toward unseen prey. Whole generations of dwarf dinosaurs grew up beneath that shadow. Hatzegopteryx ruled an island that no longer exists. Its bones rest in a quiet European valley, yet its silhouette still haunts every scientist who studies pterosaur evolution. Further south, across a vast inland ocean, a creature with an absurd crest carved the warm Cretaceous wind. The western interior seaway split North America in two, from Arctic ice down to the warm Gulf of Mexico. A shallow ocean covered what is now Kansas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas. Above its surface flew Pteranodon longiceps. 85 million years ago, this was the most common large pterosaur on the planet. Pteranodon was a fisher. Its wingspan reached 7 meters. Its beak was long, toothless, and shaped like a hunting heron's elegant spear. Behind its skull rose a great, backward-sweeping crest of bone, a sail of biological design still dividing scientists. Some argue it served as a counterweight, balancing the beak in flight. Others propose a rudder for coastal winds. Most believe it was a display structure, a sexual ornament signaling health, age, and dominance to distant rivals. We know this because the crest grew larger with age and because males and females wore them differently. Mature males carried crests like vast curved banners. Females and juveniles wore smaller versions of identity in flight. This was the architecture of identity in a creature that lived in flocks above the lost inland sea. Pteranodon hunted by skimming low over open ocean, dipping its beak to scoop up fish and squid. It glided on dynamic ocean winds, exploiting airspeed gradients above the surface, the same technique modern albatrosses use. Some flights may have lasted days without a single wing beat. The Western Interior Seaway became its highway. Its colonies clustered on cliffs and rocky islands where chicks hatched and fledged in noisy, restless crowds. But Pteranodon was not alone above those open waters. Smaller, stranger, and far more elegant was Nyctosaurus. 2 meters of wingspan, a body lighter than a modern eagle, and on its head, an unprecedented ornament, a crest shaped like an antler or a mast, a long bony spar rising from the back of the skull. It was often longer than the rest of its head, sometimes branching delicately near the slender, weathered tip. For decades, scientists debated whether this strange crest had once supported a sail of thin, stretched skin. Recent analysis suggests it did not. The bone itself was the display, the entire elegant airborne spectacle. A flag of solid keratin and calcium raised proudly against the wind blowing above the prehistoric sea. Imagine a flock of Nyctosaurus rising in formation above the Kansas Sea, antlers catching the late afternoon sun. Casting long, fractured shadows across the foam, a fleeting cathedral of bone drifting through golden coastal light. What drove the evolution of such bizarre ornamental headgear? Sexual selection remains the leading scientific answer today. In a vast Cretaceous sky full of competing males, the most spectacular crest won. Function followed fashion. Some scientists also propose thermoregulation. The bone surface helped radiate heat during prolonged flight beneath a tropical sun. Both forces may have shaped its strange design, vanity and survival fused into a single soaring crest. The skies above the inland sea were full of voices. Pteranodon's shrieks echoing off cliffs, Nyctosaurus crossing water. Below, mosasaurs slid through shallows. Above, the sun never quite set on a society of pterosaurs, colony, territory, display. This was not chaos. This was culture. Winged reptiles thriving for tens of millions of years without modern birds. But the Cretaceous skies did not belong to pterosaurs alone. Another flyer crossed them, smaller, stranger, not a pterosaur. Microraptor gui. Discovered in the Yixian Formation of China, a true dinosaur, cousin of Velociraptor, body of a dromaeosaur. But this dinosaur had 4 wings. 4. Forelimbs like a bird, hind legs fully feathered, both generating lift. For a century, a 4-winged vertebrate seemed absurd. Then, in 2002, paleontologists unearthed Microraptor from Liaoning. The fossil was so complete that individual feathers survived. Long flight feathers ran along its arms and its legs. Then modern science went further. By analyzing melanosomes preserved inside the fossilized feathers, scientists determined Microraptor's actual color: iridescent. Glossy black with a blue-violet sheen, like a crow. The first dinosaur whose true color science knows. Microraptor was small, about the size of a modern raven, hunting the dense forests of early Cretaceous China. Beneath canopies of ginkgo and primitive conifer, it was nocturnal, its dark iridescence vanishing against the shadows. Its stomach contents have been preserved. We know what it ate: small lizards, fish, bones of tiny mammals. Even an early bird, swallowed whole. How did it fly? This is still debated among modern researchers. Some reconstruct Microraptor as a glider, leaping branch to branch, 4 wings spread, legs trailing like biplane fins. Others argue it was capable of powered flight, beating its forelimbs in short bursts to chase prey. Wind tunnel experiments with feathered models revealed that the four-winged configuration was unstable in level-powered flight. But descending glides could cover impressive distances across the misty forest floors of the early Cretaceous world. Microraptor was not the ancestor of birds. The lineages had already split many millions of years earlier, but it was a glimpse, a parallel experiment in winged predation conducted by other dinosaurs at the same moment. The Yishan forests hosted at least 3 different lineages of flying dinosaurs simultaneously. The air was crowded with experiments. And here is the deeper meaning. Microraptor proves that flight in the Mesozoic was not a single invention. It was not a story of one breakthrough. It was an explosion. Pterosaurs flew, birds flew, dinosaurs flew. Some glided, some flapped, some did both. The Cretaceous sky was an evolutionary laboratory of parallel experiments. Most of those experiments failed. The four-winged dinosaurs left no descendants. The night gliders of Liaoning vanished without echo. Their iridescent feathers survive only as impressions in volcanic ash, ghostly outlines of a vanished branch of evolution. But one experiment did succeed. One lineage carried flight's secret across the extinction boundary into the modern world. The fifth sovereign of the Cretaceous sky is still alive, still flying, and you have seen it today. Its name is Ichthyornis dispar. Ichthyornis means fish bird. It lived 87 million years ago in Pteranodon's skies. It hunted above the western interior seaway, small as a tern, with wings shaped almost like a gull's. It carried the deep-keeled breastbone of a powerful flapping bird, but it also had teeth, sharp, recurved. Recurved teeth lined its jaws. Modern computed tomography has revealed every detail of its delicate fossilized skull. The pattern of bone, the architecture of the brain, the shape of its eye sockets, all preserved. Ichthyornis was already a bird in every modern sense, except that it had not yet lost its reptilian dentition. This creature belonged to the lineage that would become Neorniths, the modern birds, ancestors of all alive today. Every gull, every eagle, every sparrow and hummingbird flying in the world descends from these small-toothed pioneers. While pterosaurs ruled the upper air and dinosaurs ruled the canopy, a quiet revolution unfolded in this flapping body. The keeled sternum, the fused tail. The hollow, precise bones engineered for sustained powered flight across vast distances. The brain wired for high-speed visual processing. Every feature defining modern avian flight was already present in Ichthyornis. When the asteroid struck 66 million years ago, Ichthyornis itself did not survive. The toothed birds vanished entirely. But their close cousins, the small ground-foraging early neorniths, endured by living in burrows and quietly eating seeds. They could survive on almost nothing while the surface burned. From that fragile bottleneck, modern bird lineages emerged. The pigeon on your windowsill, the hawk circling above the highway, the hummingbird hovering at a delicate flower. They are all descendants of birds that flew alongside Pteranodon and Quetzalcoatlus, true heirs of the same Mesozoic lineage. Every wingbeat in the modern sky is an echo of the Cretaceous. This is the fifth sovereign that survived. It did not survive because it was largest, nor because it was strongest. It survived by being small. Small enough to hide, fast enough to disperse, adaptable enough to eat almost anything in the ruined world. When you watch starlings turn in unison across an evening sky, you watch movement choreographed by ancient genes. Those genes were already old when Tyrannosaurus walked the earth. The crow on the fence post predates the Rocky Mountains. The seagull crying on the wooden pier is older than the Atlantic Ocean as we know it today. Birds are not the successors of dinosaurs. Birds are the dinosaurs themselves, ancient survivors of a vanished world. The only branch of that ancient family that learned to outlive the very world that made it possible. They carry the Mesozoic in their blood, in the hollow architecture of bones, in the rhythm of breath. The fifth ruler of the Cretaceous sky still rules it today. Quieter, smaller, but unmistakably the same lineage.
But something erased the others from the sky. Something so vast, it changed the rules of life itself. 66 million years ago, an asteroid 10 kilometers wide struck the shallow sea of the Yucatan Peninsula. The crater it left behind is called Chicxulub. The impact released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons. Within hours, a wall of superheated debris circled the planet. Forests ignited, tsunamis rolled across the oceans. Within weeks, soot filled the upper atmosphere. Sunlight dimmed. Photosynthesis collapsed. The food chain failed at its base. This was the impact winter, lasting years, perhaps decades. Temperatures dropped sharply, plants died, herbivores starved, predators followed, and in the sky, the great pterosaurs faced a problem they could not solve. They were too large, they reproduced too slowly. A Quetzalcoatlus did not lay many eggs, it invested heavily in single offspring. Its chicks took years to mature, years to learn the geometry of soaring flight, years they no longer had. When food became scarce, when thermal updrafts collapsed beneath a dimmed sun, there was no fallback for the giants. The energy budget of a giant glider depended entirely on a sun-drenched world, a world that was gone. The same was true for Hatzegopteryx, isolated on its island, suddenly without prey beneath a darkened sky. The same for Pteranodon, fishing over an ocean whose surface plankton had collapsed into silent, sunless water. The same for Nyctosaurus, displaying crests no female would ever see again across the dimmed Mesozoic horizon. Across every continent, the pterosaurs starved. Their fossils stop abruptly at the boundary. No gentle decline, a wall. Among true birds, only some lineages survived. The toothed Ichthyornis vanished with the rest, and tree canopy hunters disappeared. What survived were the small, the unspecialized, the ground foraging, birds that nested in burrows or ate seeds. Some could endure long darkness on stored food. From this narrow gate came every modern bird species alive. The selection pressure was severe. Body size was punished. Specialized diet punished. Slow reproduction punished. Only flexible passed. This is why no giant flyer has ever returned. The 11-meter pterosaur's empty niche remains empty today. No bird has dared grow that large. No reptile has retaken the upper air above the silent continents. The asteroid did not just end the Cretaceous. It rewrote the rules of flight forever and humbled science. Recent fossil discoveries have transformed our understanding of this lost world, from Romania's Hatzeg deposits to China's Yixian. Hatzeg yields new pterosaur material every decade. Yixian preserves feathers, soft tissues, even stomach contents in volcanic ash. Modern tomography lets paleontologists look inside fossil skulls without breaking them. Ichthyornis' brain mapped in 3 dimensions, Quetzalcoatlus' flight muscles have been reconstructed in vivid detail. Microraptor's true color was read directly from preserved melanosomes. We now know more about the Cretaceous sky than any generation before us, modeling pterosaur wings in wind tunnels. We simulate Quetzalcoatlus taking off on computers, running models that show how the entire food web collapsed. And we have learned the deepest lesson of all. The Cretaceous did not end. It mutated, transforming completely. The age of pterosaurs is gone, but the age of dinosaurs continues. Hidden in the wings of every bird. Every pigeon in the city carries a Mesozoic lineage. Every sparrow at the feeder is an extinction survivor. An extinction that erased 3/4 of all species. The Cretaceous sky is not dead, only transformed. A world that bent and folded and continued through a doorway too narrow for most living things to pass. When you next hear a bird sing at dawn, listen carefully. You are hearing the voice of a survivor. You are hearing the echo of a world that no longer exists, preserved in feathered descendants of giants.
The next chapter descends to the lost oceans of the Mesozoic, where new monsters wait beneath the waves. Subscribe to continue the journey into a world that no longer exists. Activate the bell for the next chapter. The next episode dives beneath the waves into an ocean ruled by monsters older than any sky above. The abyss is waiting, and it remembers.